Next unit is on angles. Specifically today, we're going to work with like parallel lines and what they call a transversal. But we'll get to triangles as well. All right, so in this picture here, lines X and Y. How would you describe lines X and Y?
Up and down.
Lines X and Y in the picture. X and Y are parallel lines. What that means is if we kept those lines going in any direction, or either left or right in this case, they will never cross. So they're straight lines that never cross. That's what parallel means. Line T, this diagonal line coming through here, is what is called a transversal. So a transversal's a line that intersects some other ones. When a transversal goes through two parallel lines, what it does is it makes 8 different angles. You see them A, B, C, D, E, F, E. Just for the next part, okay? So you can just kind of keep that as a reference. You got there on your sheet. So on this screen, there are 8 angles. Out of those 8 angles, though, there's only 2 different measurements, okay? There's only 2 possible answers for like the measure of the angle. One of the things this unit deals with are a lot of different types of angles. All right, there, in some cases, there's a lot of them, so it makes it a little difficult to remember at times. Corresponding angles first. Angles in the same relative position. They're angles in matching corners. So on our picture up there, A and E are corresponding angles. B and F also are corresponding angles. So A and E, B and F, those aren't the only ones. So let's just put a couple of them as an example. So you can see angle A is the top left up there. Angle E is the top left up there. We said B and F. Everybody see how they're matching? Top right, top right. So C is a corresponding angle with what letter? G. All right, not so bad, right? Like I said, it's just something to keep track of. It's not horrible. What corresponding angles do are they are congruent. What's congruent mean in math? Means they're equal, they're same. All right, so congruent, that means they're the same. So angle A and angle E are the same. Like I said, there's only 2 different measurements on here. So a lot of them are going to be the same. All right, next one, vertical angles. Vertical angles are pairs of opposite angles formed by intersecting lines. So A and B, F and G, those are vertical angles. They're not always vertical from each other, so the name's a little confusing sometimes on that. So if I go back to the picture, like I said, A and D are vertical angles. All right, so you see how we make the X? Where the lines cross in X, vertical angles are the ones that are across from each other. Okay? A and D, do they look different or the same? Same, different, some of each I'm hearing. They're going to be the same, okay? So they're congruent again. Y'all, when you look at this, you can see I got a big angle here, right? I got a smaller angle right there. So really what it ends up being is all of the small angles match, all of the big angles match, okay? So, like I said, those are congruent again. Linear pair are adjacent angles formed by intersecting lines. What's adjacent mean?
Adjacent?
Yeah. Corey is adjacent to Taquan. Next to, yeah. So two angles that are next to each other, they add up to 180 degrees. So they use A and B and F and H as their examples. But again, more than just those two. So if we look A and B next to each other, right? Hey, what else is A next to? C. So A and C also add up to 180, right? So it's just either way, they're next to each other. We're going to get them to add up to 180. What are two angles that add up to 180? Anybody remember that word? Starts with an S.
Scaling?
Supplementary. Remember, I think last year you had to work with complementary and supplementary angles. Complementary added up to 90. We're not going to for 8th grade math. Supplementary add up to 180. We'll be using those a lot. 180 is going to show up a lot. You know, once we start working with triangles too, you're going to see even more 180. All right, so that's the first three. As I said, there's a lot of these. We got to get through them. Alternate interior angles. What's interior mean? Inside. So alternate interior angles are angles inside the parallel lines on opposite sides of the transversal. So they're saying C and F and D and E. So if I go back and we look, I'll just do C and F. Y'all see C and F are on the inside, right? And they're on opposite sides of that transversal, that diagonal line. C is on the left, F is on the right. That's what they mean by alternate, okay? So they alternate which side they're on. They're on the inside, they're interior. Easy enough, right? And they are congruent. So that means they're, the same. Then alternate exterior angles. What are exterior ones then? Outside. So they're outside the parallel lines, and they're still going to be on opposite sides of the transversal. So they use A and H or B and G. I won't flip back for this one, but you can see on your picture how that works. They're on the outsides of the parallel lines and left and right of the transversal. Are those different or the same then? So if I've got A and H, are those both big angles or little angles? They're both big. That means they're going to be congruent. They're going to be the same. Yeah, like I said, there's 8 angles, but there's only 2 different measurements. So the big angles are all the same. The small angles are all the same. Now, if we get measurements that are like close to 90 degrees, it's hard to tell which one's big, which one's small. But when they're diagonal lines like that for the transversal, it's usually pretty easy to tell. All right, next one, same side interior angles. So again, inside, same side of the transversal. So that means if one of them's on the left, the other one is also on the left. So they use C and E and D and F. So if I go back, I look at C and E. C's there, E's there. Everybody see what they're talking about? They're on the inside, they're both on the left. Any questions on that? If you look, you can tell, you can tell those are different angles. That means they're going to be supplementary. So in this case, if they're different, they're going to be supplementary. All right, same side exterior angles, just like with the alternate interior, or the alternate ones, you know. These are angles on the outside. And they're on the same side of the transversal since they're same side exterior angles. So A and G and B and H. So if you look at A and G on your picture, A and G, are they different or the same? Different. He's got the big angle, G's got the little angle, right? So if they're different, that means they're going to be supplementary. They're adding up to 180. When you're looking at the angles, you either got a big angle or a little angle. You're looking at basically, you know, how wide's the gator's mouth open, right? And it's chomping down on that letter. That's the angle you're looking at. So you can see A has a nice wide opening. That's the big angle. The ones like B, where it's a little bit more narrow, those are going to be the other measurements. Got that part taken care of. Like I said, I know that's a lot of different things. But basically what it comes down to is you're looking to see if they're big or small angles. So look, this picture here, I can use one number and I can fill in all 8 of these angles, okay? So look, y'all go ahead, you're going to do the same on your sheet. This one's on the back of it. All right, so the 75, is that the big angle or the small angle?
Big angle.
Small angle. Y'all, look, this opening right here is less than that opening right there, isn't it? The purple one's open wider. That's the big angle. So what that means is everywhere else I see the small angle is going to be 75. So that puts 75 here, 75 here, 75 here. Or you can see those are vertical angles, right? These are alternate interior angles, or we can do corresponding angles, and they're all matching up. All right, so now I need the big angle. What does this whole thing add up to? 180. So how do I get the big angle? Subtract from 180. 180 minus 75, that gives me 105. Everybody okay with that? All right, so then Keller, what's this angle right here? 105. Y'all, every other angle left over is 105. There are two numbers for all 8 of these angles. That's how it works, okay? Are we going to get things that end up being a little bit more complicated than that? Yes. For right now, though, that's what it's looking like. Everybody kind of follow? Not so bad, right? All right, so now we look at this. These first two questions here. It says the measure of angle 2 is 55 degrees. So I'm going to go ahead and fill that in. We need to find the measure of angle 3 and the measure of angle 7. So go ahead and give those a try. 3, 7. Measure of angle 3, Jaden. $55 is correct. We know that because 2 and 3 are vertical angles. They're straight across from each other. That makes them the same. All right, angle 7. Eric? 55. So if I look at 2 and 7, those are alternate exterior angles. You can also tell they're both the tinier angle on there, okay? Any questions on those? All right, let's try a couple more. Different little picture. This time it's saying angle 5 is 102. We need angle 4 and angle 1. All right, measure of angle 4, Aubrey. 102 is correct. Those are alternate interior angles, so that makes them the same. Carlea, number 4, here, or it's angle 1. It'll also be 102. It's problem number 4, but it's a vertical angle with angle 4, so that's one way you can tell they're the same. It is also the corresponding angle with number 5, so that'd be another way. I said once you fill them in, you just kind of fill in pieces. All right, so now here's a little trick here because it's got to use the terminology, okay? Number one here says, or not number one, they're not numbered, but the first one says angle 2 and angle 8 are corresponding angles. So angle 2 is bottom left. Angle 8 is bottom right. Does that mean they're corresponding? No. They'd have to either 2 and 6 are corresponding, 8 and 4 are corresponding, okay? So that'd be false. They're just asking if these are true or false. All right, 3 and 5, it says are congruent. Are 3 and 5 congruent?
Yes.
What's congruent mean? Same. Are they the same? It's a little harder to tell, but you can see angle 3 is a bit tinier than angle 5, right? I said it's not as obvious as some of the others, but they are smaller, and if they're one smaller than the other, they're not congruent. Congruent mean they're the same. 1 and 8, are they alternate interior angles? No. What's interior mean? Inside. 1 and 8 are outside the parallel lines, so they would be alternate exterior angles. 5 and 8, are they vertical angles? Yeah, vertical angles mean they're across from the X from each other. 5 and 8 are across from each other. 1 and 7, are they supplementary angles? Yeah, what that means is they're different, right? 1 and 7, 1's the bigger angle, 7's the smaller angle. So that means they are supplementary. They add up to 180. Any questions on that?